At Polaro asks, stress will shrink your brain? Really? Yes, really. The data here are quite clear. Stress does have effects on the brain, and it can shrink the brain, and it shrinks the area that grows new brain cells, the hippocampus. Wendy Stella 06 asks, are women really more sensitive and emotional than men in general? If you take thousands of men and thousands of women and you compare them, you will find these slight differences where women may be more sensitive to emotional cues than men. In certain contexts, they may be more expressive of emotion than men, but the variation within gender far exceeds the variation between gender. And so in my view, focusing on these gender differences is really a little bit misplaced. At Riri Yuri, why do we even have feelings? Feelings and emotions are found throughout evolutionary history. They're not just found in humans. In the case of an animal who may be confronted by a predator, the experience of fear will motivate the animal to run or to fight. We have feelings to navigate important life decisions. They are really critical in enabling us to make important decisions. For example, should we be with a significant other? Should we take one job versus another job? Those are not decisions that we make based on a simple, cold cognitive calculus. We use our emotions, our feelings, to decide. At Alpaca Aurelius, holy crap, Botox impairs your ability to process other people's emotions because it prevents your face from mirroring someone's reaction. Botox is truly soul-sucking. Botox does effectively paralyze your facial muscles. And one of the things that we've learned over the last 20 years in research on emotion is that not only does the brain control the face to produce emotional expressions, but emotional expressions feed back information to the brain to help the brain modulate its activity. When we are interacting with another person, we often engage in contagious emotional expressions. So we are simulating the emotions that another person may experience. This is part of empathy. And if we can't do that because of Botox, we are literally deprived of a major mechanism through which we can make inferences about both our own emotion as well as another person's emotion. At Adam Fair 1996 says, chemical imbalance is a myth. But is it really? Studies done have shown that a serotonin imbalance may not be the real cause of depression, but that's just one chemical. The body is made up of chemicals. So unless you've researched them all, you can't make that initial statement. It is true that serotonin is just one chemical, and even though drugs to treat depression primarily act on serotonin, it doesn't mean that serotonin is the cause, nor does it mean that it's the most important chemical involved in depression. In fact, it's likely that the serotonin just triggers a whole chemical cascade unleashed by taking this drug. And so the cause of the depression and the cause of the improvement in depression goes way beyond serotonin. We are still discovering many new chemicals in the brain and the body. We are living in this chemical soup that is highly complex. The idea that there is going to be a single molecule associated with a specific disease or a specific emotion is absolutely a myth. Andrea Labuti, MD asks, are autistic individuals hypersensitive to emotions? It depends, because autism is not a homogeneous category. It's quite heterogeneous. There are different subtypes of autism, and there are some subgroups of autism that are hypersensitive in general. This would include being hypersensitive to emotion. One of the things that we see in a subgroup of autistic individuals is that they show gaze aversion. They don't look directly at a person's face because they're so sensitive to emotion, and it's so arousing for them to watch another person's face that they have to actually turn away. And this gaze aversion starts very early in life. It's one of the first symptoms of autism that expresses itself.